There was a time when the Brown family stood together like an unbreakable wall, a family built on promises of forever, on dreams of eternity, on the belief that loyalty could outlast any storm. But today, that wall is cracked, chipped away by betrayal, by shifting hearts, and by a deep, silent crisis of faith that no one really wants to name out loud. The world they once built on the idea of eternal marriage is falling apart. And it's not just about relationships ending, it's about the foundations of their entire belief system coming undone right in front of our eyes. Hi, friends, I'm Olivia, and welcome back to TLC Sister Wives Secrets. If you love getting into the real stories behind reality TV and hearing the truth the cameras only hint at, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and jump into the comments to let me know what you think. I love reading your takes, and trust me, we have a lot to talk about today. Tonight, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful shifts we've seen in a long time. Janelle and Meri seriously talking about spiritual divorce. Not just legal separation, not just emotional detachment, but actually breaking the sacred ties they once believed would bind them to Kody forever, even beyond death. And here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about Janelle finding her freedom or Meri putting her foot down. This could completely shatter the future Kody and Robyn have been clinging to for years. Why does a spiritual divorce matter so much now? Why is this conversation happening on Coyote Pass, where dreams of unity are now just ghosts? And most importantly, what could it mean for the few threads still holding this family together? Let's get into it. The cold air at Coyote Pass that day seemed heavier than usual, almost like it was carrying the weight of everything this family has lost. Janelle and Meri stood together, looking out over the land that once represented hope, a place where all the Browns would finally build homes side by side and live out their plural dreams. But that vision is long gone. Now it's just patches of dirt and broken promises stretching out in every direction. Their conversation started quietly, but the tension between them was impossible to miss. It wasn't just about land disputes or who got what. It was about ownership of something much bigger: closure, dignity, and truth. Janelle opened up, admitting that she never felt the need for a spiritual divorce when she first separated from Kody. She truly believed that just walking away, doing the legal steps, and standing firm in her own heart was enough. And for a while, it was. But now, standing there with Meri, looking back on 30 years of shared life, shared sacrifices, and the deep betrayal that came with Kody's choices, Janelle is rethinking everything. She's realizing that maybe walking away legally isn't enough. Maybe there's a part of her spirit still tangled up in promises she didn't even realize she was still carrying. Meri, who has already walked this road, gently offered support. She told Janelle she would go with her if she decided to pursue a spiritual divorce, just like she needed to do herself. For Meri, getting that spiritual release wasn't just a formality. It was about honoring the depth of what they once believed in and making sure she was fully free. In the eyes of her faith and in the depths of her own heart. And you could see it on Janelle's face, that mixture of sadness, strength, and quiet anger. She wasn't rushing into it. She wasn't being impulsive. She was finally admitting out loud that Kody had abandoned not just their marriage, but the spiritual covenant that was supposed to mean forever. There's something almost tragic about it. After everything they sacrificed, after years of believing in a bigger, higher purpose, Janelle is left standing on a barren piece of land, wondering if she has to formally sever ties just to truly be free. It's not about anger anymore. It's about reclaiming herself. And for the first time, she's seriously considering it. And honestly, if Janelle makes this move, it could send shockwaves through what little is left of the Brown family's foundation, especially for one person in particular, Robyn, in the faith that the Browns used to belong to, the Apostolic United Brethren, or the AUB. Marriage isn't just a legal contract. It's something eternal. A spiritual covenant meant to last not just for this lifetime, but for forever. In that world, if you want to end a marriage, you can't just pack up your things and walk away. You have to go through a real process: counseling sessions, meetings with church leadership, and finally, getting their official approval to release the spiritual bond. It's not fast, it's not easy, and it's not something they take lightly. When Meri finally faced her spiritual divorce, it wasn't just a check mark on a list. It was something deeply emotional for her. She needed that final step to truly move forward, not because she was clinging to Kody, but because she was clinging to the promises she had made to herself and to God. For Meri, it was about closure. It was about saying, I did everything the right way. I honored my faith. Now I can leave with a clean heart. Christine, on the other hand, didn't feel the need to go through that spiritual process. She had made up her mind. In her heart, she knew it was over, and she didn't feel like she needed anyone else's permission to move on with her life. And honestly, who could blame her? After everything she went through, the neglect, the disrespect, it made sense that Christine would reclaim her own power without asking for validation from a system that had failed her for so long. Still, you can't ignore the emotional weight tied to all of this. Spiritual divorce isn't just paperwork, it's the death of a dream, the closing of a chapter that was supposed to last for all eternity. It's standing up and saying out loud that something sacred has been broken beyond repair. And now Janelle is standing at that same crossroads. She's wrestling with whether she needs that final goodbye too. Not just for Kody's sake or for the church's rules, but for her own soul. To fully close the door, to finally let go of everything she fought so hard for and everything she lost. Because once that spiritual bond is cut, it's not just a marriage ending, it's an entire belief system being left behind. And not everybody is ready to face what that truly means. While Janelle and Meri are trying to find closure and peace, there's one person who seems to have a very different view of all of this, and that's Robyn. From the very beginning, Robyn has clung tightly to the idea of eternal marriage. To her, being sealed spiritually isn't just symbolic, it's everything. It's her ticket to a promised, exalted afterlife where her family is intact, perfect, and never ending. Robyn has made it clear over and over again that she believes spiritual bonds don't just break because someone says they're done. She's said herself that until a woman is physically with another man, the spiritual marriage is still valid. It's not just confusing, it's strategic. Every time the situation shifts, Robyn shifts with it, moving the goalposts just enough to make sure her world still makes sense. When Christine left, Robyn insisted it wasn't real because Christine hadn't gotten a spiritual divorce. When Meri finally let go, Robyn mourned the loss, but still seemed to cling to the idea that some part of that bond remained. Now, with Janelle contemplating a spiritual release too, it's clear why Robyn would be worried. Right now, in Robyn's mind, Kody technically still has 3 wives, even if 2 of them haven't loved him in years. That technicality matters. It keeps Robyn's eternal kingdom alive, at least on paper. It keeps her fantasy protected. As long as those spiritual ties exist, Robyn can tell herself that the family dream is still there somewhere, even if it's just barely holding on by threads. And honestly, Robyn has benefited enormously from this technical setup. She's lived a version of plural marriage where she basically had Kody all to herself while still reaping the status and spiritual prestige of being part of a polygamist family. She didn't have to share the way the other wives did. She didn't face the same sacrifices. She got the attention, the financial security, and the spiritual credit without most of the struggle. If Janelle moves forward with a real spiritual divorce, it punches a hole right through Robyn's fantasy. It forces her to face the fact that she's not part of a thriving plural marriage anymore. She's just standing in the ruins, desperately trying to hold together a kingdom that no longer exists. And honestly, you can almost feel the panic starting to creep in. One of the most striking things we've heard from Robyn lately is her heartbreaking admission that God has been missing from their lives for a long time now. And honestly, when you look at the way everything has unraveled, it's hard not to wonder if she's right. Back in the early seasons, the Browns always said their faith was the center of everything. Their choices, their sacrifices, their entire family structure, it was all supposed to be about following what they believed God wanted for them. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Fame happened, money happened. The show became a full-time job. They moved states, drifted away from their church community, and slowly but surely, the glue that once held them all together started to dissolve. Without their faith community around them, without the constant reminders of why they had chosen this life, it became easier to slip into a new kind of normal, one where the promises they made to each other didn't seem quite as urgent, one where keeping the family together just didn't seem worth all the work anymore. It's like they built this giant house of cards, and when they stopped tending to the foundation, their faith, their community, it only took a little bit of pressure for everything to fall apart. And you have to wonder, if they had stayed closer to the AUB, if they had kept those ties strong, would things have ended differently? Would Kody have tried harder to love all his wives equally instead of just gravitating toward Robyn? Would the other wives have felt more seen, more valued, more loved? It's not about whether their church had all the right answers, but because we know there were problems there too. But the connection they once had to something bigger than themselves gave them purpose. It gave them accountability. And without it, they drifted into a place where it became every man and every wife for themselves. Watching it happen has been like watching a family slowly sink into quicksand. The more they struggled to keep up appearances, the faster they disappeared under the weight of all the broken promises. And now, with spiritual divorces being considered, with the family splintered beyond recognition, it's clear whatever they once were, that era is over. Here's the heartbreaking irony you just can't ignore. Out of everyone, it might actually be Robyn who's holding on the tightest to the old AUB beliefs. She's the one still talking about eternal marriage, spiritual ties, and doing things the right way. Yet at the same time, it's her arrival that marked the beginning of the Brown family's biggest split. It's painful to say out loud, but if you watch the show closely, the pattern is impossible to miss. Robyn's presence shifted everything. Kody's focus narrowed. The balance among the wives crumbled, and what used to be a messy but united family turned into a battlefield of hurt feelings and broken bonds. Robyn may have been trying to live the teachings she believed in, but in the process, the entire structure collapsed around her. And now, she's clinging to the idea that Kody still has three wives, like it's her last life raft. In her mind, those technical spiritual bonds mean her eternal salvation is still intact. As long as Janelle and Christine don't officially sever those ties through a spiritual divorce, Robyn can tell herself the dream isn't fully dead. It's almost heartbreaking when you think about it. Robyn isn't just fighting for Kody. She's fighting for the future she believes was promised to her, the kingdom she thought she was building with God's blessing. Every time another wife steps away, it's not just about losing family. To Robyn, it's about losing heaven. And then there's Kody, a man whose relationship with faith seems completely scrambled now. He spent so many seasons trashing the church, doubting polygamy, doubting everything he once preached. But then we catch these little glimpses, like when he whispered that Mormon baptism prayer in Aurora's ear. It's this tiny moment that says way more than he probably realized. Somewhere deep down, that old faith is still there, even if he's too angry, too broken, or too stubborn to admit it. The truth is, neither Kody nor Robyn has fully let go of the past. They're both clinging to pieces of it in their own way. But what they've built now isn't a thriving, faithful family. It's just a house full of ghosts, old promises, old dreams, and old heartbreaks that never quite got buried. If Janelle really decides to go through with a spiritual divorce, it could shatter everything Robyn's been holding on to. It wouldn't just be another family split. It would mean Robyn's entire idea of her eternal future with Kody would come crashing down. No more pretending, no more hiding behind technicalities. It would force her to face a reality she's spent years trying to avoid. And it leaves us all with a heavy question. Is Robyn fighting for love? For loyalty? Or is she just desperately clinging to a fantasy? A fantasy of salvation that maybe was never truly hers to begin with. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. Do you believe Robyn's intentions are pure? Or has she been protecting a dream that was doomed from the start? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to TLC Sister Wives Secrets, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.